Well, comprehensive plan meeting to order. Present, we have Chair Caitlin McCumsky, Dwight Youthy, and Jeremy Frame. We sent out the agenda. Thank you all for verbally telling me you already did your homework. Maybe that's why Birch didn't want to come. Just kidding, Birch. Did anybody have any updates to the meeting? We had a pretty quick meeting in August. I know only Jeremy and I were present. All right, we'll go ahead and mark those as final and we'll get those posted to the website. The postcards went out. I believe mine came Saturday of this past week. We do have 70 responses to our survey already, which is a great response so far. Typically with stuff like this, I anticipate we'll have a lot at first and it'll taper off pretty quickly. And we have had 41 people subscribe to start receiving emails from the town. So really great initial response to those. There was some discussion. There is a water bill going out soon, whether or not we wanted to do an insert with the water bill that is only going to capture a small portion of our residents. To me, and if anybody else feels strongly in another direction, please speak up. To me, it seems unnecessary since we just did a postcard mailing and we're going to do a second postcard mailing. Yeah, and you know, that it's going to be extra work on the town clerk's office. It just doesn't seem super necessary to me. So seems like we're all in agreement on that. The Ontario County Planning Department, as you may remember, Supervisor Vestola had executed a contract with them. The scope of work was a little bit beyond what we needed assistance with. So we did update that scope of work. I did meet with Supervisor Vestola yesterday. He's good with the updated scope of work. So we're just waiting for the county to amend that contract. And then we can start moving forward with some of the assistance we need from them, like things like updating the maps. So the contract, I assume, is going to be for 12 months. So it is going to span 2 budget years. So we have some funding that we definitely want to get used up this year. And then I've budgeted the additional contract amount for 2025. Any questions on the county stuff? So as part of the county contract, and really our next steps, I want to get the public engagement meeting and the first public hearing scheduled. So just as a reminder, the difference between a public engagement meeting and a public hearing is that the public engagement meeting is sort of an open house, more interactive. We'll have, you know, sort of like different stations that have information and, you know, we'll work with the county to determine the exact format of that, but it's more of a open house interactive format. Public hearing, we're all much more familiar with those. 2 need to be held as part of the adoption of a comprehensive plan. It makes sense for the first one to be done while the plan is still being updated so that we can take any feedback from the public and actually still incorporate it into the plan and, you know, allow the public to have more buy-in. And then the second one will be done after the update has been completed. We'll present the completed plan to the town board and have a public hearing at that time. That'll be really our last step. Yes, so I'm thinking tentatively for the public engagement meeting, I would love to be able to do it at our next comp plan meeting on 10/10. I think that's a little bit aggressive, but I think it's doable. I'll need to check with the county and see their availability. But but that would be my preference. And just instead of holding our October meeting, we would have this public engagement meeting and then continue our regular meetings in November. As for a public hearing, that needs to take place in conjunction with a town board meeting. So looking at the calendar and speaking with Supervisor Vastola, we thought November 11th, 11/11, made the most sense. There's a lot of budget stuff going on right now. We don't want to get sort of bogged down in the middle of that. And to me, I know, I was like that. I was like, those dates will be easy to remember. To me, and if anybody feels differently, please let me know. It makes sense to do the public engagement meeting first. And then at the public hearing, we can have a little bit of data. The survey will have closed about 2 weeks before. So we can have some initial like survey data, we can share some of the findings from the public engagement meeting. So we can share some of those things briefly during the public hearing. So that was sort of why that November date made sense beyond the budget. Does that sound doable to you guys? The other thing that's coming up on 10/17 is the County Road 36 culvert replacement meeting. Are you familiar with this?
First I'm hearing of it.
At 5:30 on 10/17, they're gonna do a public meeting. I think it just got confirmed yesterday, which is why you may not have been looped in yet. And that's, yes, I believe so. Let me double check. Supervisor Vastola sent me an email yesterday.
It's down. So the very south end of town, as you're headed towards Naples, right? You get to Old Westlake South. And down where the town dump and the brush pit is, it's between Old Westlake South and Cross Road, right in between there.
I apologize. It also does say County Road 36 bridge replacement. But bridge culvert, I'm sure it's both. So that I believe has been confirmed for 10/17 at 5:30. So we had discussed saving some of our, instead of doing an ad in the penny saver, saving some of our budget and doing a second postcard to advertise our public hearing and our public engagement meeting. So I offered that we would also share this other public meeting about the County Road 36 bridge replacement on our postcard, since it falls in between the two and we're sending out a mailing, it made sense. So I will chat with the county and make sure that those dates work. We'll definitely want to get those confirmed sooner than later if we're going to make them happen, because 10/10 will, I assume, be here before we know it. And then we'll work on developing a second postcard. I'm hoping maybe Birch will help us out with that. I've got some language draft, just basic language drafted for him already. Any questions about the public meetings? And real quick, before we get into the existing plan, I did submit a budget. I should have added it to the agenda, but I neglected to. I did submit a budget for us for 2025. It falls under the planning board's budget line, but Ted did submit that as part of it. We haven't really discussed this, and I don't know if we were expecting it. Typically in like special committees like this, only the chair has gotten a stipend for participating. Supervisor Vastola does want everybody who's participating to feel valued and that their time is worth something. So you will be eligible for a stipend for all of these meetings that you've attended, in addition to your planning board meetings. You're a little bit of a horse of a different color.
Wasn't expecting it anyways.
And that's what he said. He's like, I'm sure Jeremy's not expecting it. But since you're an elected official and on salary, I think it gets a little bit muddy, but if that's something you wanted to discuss with him, you certainly
Don't worry
could.
about it.
Okay. So yes, our budget, we have extra wiggle room in the budget this year to make sure that everybody's compensated, and then we have added it as an additional line item for next year. If anybody is interested in more details about the budget, I do have a spreadsheet. I'm happy to email that to anybody who's interested. Okay, review of the existing plan. Again, I so appreciate everybody doing their homework. I don't think we need to read through this line by line. As for the purpose of the comprehensive plan, I think obviously some of the dates on this page need to be updated a little bit. Overall, I thought it was a good brief introduction. I am curious to see the resolution referenced here. To me, it sounds like it recommends updating the comprehensive plan every 5 years, which I think is unnecessary. Most communities do it every 10 years. Maybe we wait until we're further into this process, but I don't think we're gonna have a lot of substantial changes. I think are just looking at the initial survey results, they are very similar already to the survey in 2014. So my recommendation would be that we review that resolution and potentially make a recommendation to the town board that it be amended, that we update the plan every 10 years.
Obviously, we've already waited the 10 years anyways for this one, so.
Yeah, yeah. And that's just sort of like a housekeeping thing, just to have all of our ducks in a row. And so that was really my only note on that page. And then I don't have any notes until page 5. Did anybody have any notes prior to page 5?
Right, all the, says 1999. But here it says adopted 2015.
So the original plan was adopted in 99. Then there was an update oh no, I apologize. It was originally adopted in 96, revised in 99, and then revised again and adopted in 2015. But yeah, the survey and the revision mostly happened. Correct. And I do have a copy of the 1999 report, should you be interested in comparing and contrasting. Yeah, so I assume this was substantially the same and they just made updates, which, yeah, so, and I guess that's some feedback that would be helpful to me. I want to go through and do like a red line version where we actually update this document. Sometimes they just do it like an addendum. They don't change anything in the plan and they add like an appendix and say, these are the things that we're changing. I don't like that. I think that nobody's going to immediately flip to the appendix to see what the change, it just is very disjointed to me. I have a Word document copy of this plan, so it's very easy to go through and, cross out this and update sections as we go. So to me, that makes the most sense. Does that make sense to you guys as
Right,
well?
I do have a correction.
Sure.
Third paragraph.
Yep.
Discussing public water supply. So Rochester also sells some water treatment facilities along the route. I think nowadays, the majority of the water that they sell goes to customers on the transmission up to the city.
I'm sorry, which paragraph?
Third paragraph, Hemlock and Cannon Ice Lakes are used by the city of Rochester.
Mm-hmm.
So the word some water, maybe just needs to be removed.
Just cross out some and say Rochester also sells water to other communities.
Yeah, 'cause
Okay.
I think there's some. My understanding with conversations with the guys from, city of Rochester, they sell almost as much water on the transmission between here and the city as they do up in the city.
Yeah,
The majority of the city has switched to using, Monroe Water Authority water,
Yep.
so.
yep. Yeah, good catch. I think that's an appropriate correction. My next correction is on the second full paragraph that starts Honeyway Lake on page 5. This, obviously, we may need some, kind of outside counsel, whether it's from the Honeyway Lake Watershed Association or the county assists us with that. But they did the alum treatment. I think that information should be included in here. Just checking to make sure that that chart underneath is still accurate. And then I had a note, there's the sources and sort of note 1, 2, and 3. Are those the most recent studies that we should be referencing? Some of them are from 1984, 1993. There may be more recent versions of those or additional studies that we want to reference. But I think all of that, like I say, will need some outside counsel on those.
mention, big, suppose play.
So, yeah, I think we'll talk about, it was a DEC grant. And the DEC was hoping to have it be a pilot, I believe, to see the effectiveness of the treatment and potentially utilize it on other lakes. So I think we'll just talk about the grant and the where it's not really our
Form.
yes, we'll just discuss that it was done and, sort of the mechanics of how that all came about. It's not really our purview to comment on the outcome of that study. And to my knowledge, it's an ongoing study. That was just one part of the plan, and I think that's a multi-year plan. So we'll probably want to add the, if there are future parts of that plan, just reference those as well.
If you're, talking to Terry about that, we might want to clarify whether that weed harvester is still sponsored by New York State or whether that's strictly Ontario County.
It is, they get a FLOPA grant for it. Okay, perfect. Any other comments on page 5? My comments on the next page were, the floodplain. I think there's a more recent study we need to, add here. And, what is it, the FEMA maps that were just updated?
Just updated this spring. Probably has a study associated with that, I believe, because they extended it quite a bit.
Yep. So I think we'll just want to reference that in the floodplain section. That's 2.4. Yes. Yes. Section 2.5, the culverts. Obviously Canadice Hollow Road, the culvert has been completely replaced. Also Purcell Hill.
That's how it did still flood, so. I believe, July 2021. Road, it washed over the road.
Yeah. Any other culverts that you think need to be noted that have been updated or should be looked at.
Potential flooding.
Yeah, so it says 8 culverts are shown on the flood profiles in the flood insurance study. 6 are for private access roads along Honeyway Lake. The other 2 are for Purcell Hill Road and Canadace Hollow Road. They indicate every one of these is seriously undersized. None is capable of passing even the 10-year flood flow.
I know we have, the Honeywell Inlet pipe that's on Crossroad. It's, upstream from the bridge that the county is replacing next summer. We have that on our radar. It's something that needs to be addressed. Um, size pipe.
Okay. So obviously that section 2.5 is gonna need a significant amount of updating. Section 2.6 soils. I didn't have any comments. I think the soils are pretty static. We won't have a lot. For section 2.7, the forest lands, I had a note about ash trees, hemlock. You know, we have quite a few invasives. I think maybe those should be mentioned here. Um,
Have a note regarding the logging.
yeah, I made a,
The state is logging it pretty substantially right now. That this, fact that the city of Rochester operated the most significant forest management is, pretty much now outdated.
yes, yep, I had a note that the DC is logging for 2024. So yeah, we'll definitely want to review this section and make sure that we get these facts up to date, especially as it relates to logging on the state land and the state's forest management plan. I had a note on the second to last paragraph on page 9, still in section 2.7. Says less than 4% of the state's land will be managed for agricultural use. I think we just need to check and see if that's still correct. Are you familiar with where the state has agricultural lands?
I don't believe they have any.
Unless it's,
Yeah.
yeah, I didn't know if they leased
yeah.
property.
Maybe at one point down there, the southern end of Honeyway Lake, they might have been.
Oh, it
They might have
says,
been leasing for hay or something like that, cause they're, but, at this point, I think it's all just, habitat.
yeah, so we'll wanna update that. So the next section is 2.7.2 wetlands. I just had a note, they reference ash trees in the third paragraph. I made a note, is there an impact from the emerald ash borer? As you're very familiar, Jeremy, we have a lot of wetlands behind our house and it was significantly impacted by
Standing that issue.
the dead ash trees down there. So I think we'll just want to review and see if there's anything impacts we need to note here in the wetlands section.
Yeah, they have no. On that as well,
Mhm.
last sentence of that first paragraph,
Mm-hmm.
watershed protection land owned by the city of Rochester. do not own that anymore, so.
Yeah, good,
Change to
good catch.
people of the state of New York as it is listed on the Encore.
See, yes, good catch on that. I missed that. Okay, any other comments on the wetlands section? Okay, section 2.7.3 is wildlife, starting on the bottom of page 10. I had a note, there didn't seem to be anything about deer or hunting in this section. I don't know if we get into that later. I don't think we do. I feel like, there should be something about that in that section. Does anybody disagree or think it should be in a different section?
Are the breeding eagles still gone?
Yes.
Probably.
I couldn't tell you that, but I know the nest is still there.
Still there.
Yeah. Have you seen it? You know where it is?
I don't think I do.
Um. So right. It's just north of the entrance to the boat launch on the south end of the lake. So if you're coming down. So you go down Johnson Hill Road. Cut over it real quick on Southwell Baldwin to 15A. Take a left. And there's what's the sign that's right there? I think it says the Canadice Veterans Memorial Highway or something like that. If you're headed north. Right there, if you look out over the lake, it's hard to see right now because the leaves are on the trees, but in the winter and the fall, you can see the nest. It's actually almost eye level with the road.
Oh,
It's pretty impressive.
I'll have to keep my eye out for that. Neat. Okay,
Deer, I mean.
yes. So if we're referencing wildlife, I feel like we should. Yeah. Talk about deer and, using hunting as a management tool.
There.
And bear, yeah. We definitely have bear. Okay. Next section is 2.8 existing land use. I had another catch here. It referenced the City of Rochester watershed. We need to update that to DEC.
Might still be classified as a city of Rochester. The watershed is, the property is.
Oh.
The watershed itself. Might still be classified as city of Rochester.
Sure. Okay, yeah, we'll have to double check on that. That's a good note. And maybe we just reference the lakes instead of,
Just call it the Canadice Hemlock watershed.
yeah,
It must take ownership out of the equation.
yeah. I think I would prefer that language. And I think our residents would as well. Okay. I just had a note for the last paragraph in that section. There's the clean energy communities and climate smart communities grant programs. Supervisor Vastola is wanting to more actively work towards some of the goals in those grant programs. One of them is adding sustainability elements to your comp plan. You get points for that towards grants. So I had just flagged this section as a potential place to make sure that we incorporate those elements as we feel necessary and as we get feedback. I did also have a note here. I didn't know if we wanted to include anything in that section about existing fracking regulations by New York State. It sort of talks about the natural gas Marcellus shale deposit. And it says a review by the state is currently in process to update drilling safety link regulations. So,
I get that. Well,
yep. Yeah, so we'll want to incorporate whatever those updates were. Any other comments for section 2.8 existing land use? Okay. Section 2.9. Community facilities and services. It doesn't look like I had much.
I had a note on that. So. Town also owns the properties that are between town hall and the highway garage. Minus a 5-foot strip. Tells you. So, town does.
So I'm sorry, what section are you looking at? Parks and Recreation?
2.9.1, the first
Oh,
section,
okay.
town lands.
Longer.
Okay. It's just referencing, I think, that this building once was. So Jeremy, you're saying the town also owns the land between town hall and
Yeah.
highway.
Yeah, I'd have to get on Encore and see what it is, but it includes this one, right? Back over here, and then there's a pond back in there as well.
Including, I'll just make a note, including woodlot and pond. Okay, great, good catch, thank you.
Reference.
Yep, yep. Yes, great addition, thank you. Any other comments on 2.9? I really didn't have much.
2.9.3,
Yep,
it is not the state police from Livonia or Wayland anymore, it is the Canandaigua Barracks that responds out here. Sheriff. Sheriff.
okay. Got it. Another good addition, thank you.
So got a couple more, next section.
Mm-hmm,
Referencing here in Hollister, there's a dirt road leading to a large clearing that has picnic facilities and the remains of a barn that has been converted to a picnic shelter.
mm-hmm.
That is no longer there. That was torn down last summer.
The barn or all of the
That
picnic
barn.
facility?
Yeah, the barn and the picnic shelter.
So so is there any picnic facilities on the dirt road or no?
I think there's still picnic tables scattered throughout.
So
in there.
just the last and the remains of a barn, blah, 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 to the end of the
Yeah,
sentence.
there's painting graffiti and having fires. So that
Oh.
was
Okay,
also in that same paragraph, it references hiking and skiing trails.
mm-hmm,
Snowmobile trails is a big thing up there as well. Snow, a lot of people actually trailer, there are snowmobiles up there,
Yeah.
snowmobile from there, or all the way down to like, and that's what
And I believe, um, the county just got some sort of grant too for something with snowmobile trails, so maybe that needs to be, yeah. Grant.
And then I have one more. That's saying 2.9.4, the third paragraph.
Yep.
The primary activities are fishing and hunting. I think paddle sports needs to be added in there because if you go down there on any given day, there's way more kayakers and canoeists out there than anything else. On Cannabis Lake. Yeah. So almost so much where it's driven a lot of the fishermen out of there because they got tired of dealing with it.
I think even doing yoga exercise.
Yep.
Yeah.
Facebook.
Yeah,
Yep.
they do a paddleboard yoga class.
Which
It's fun. I've done it.
I'm not sure how they get by with that because I'm sure they fall in the water and swim and so yeah.
Yeah. Right.
She does a little thing at the beginning of the class and she lets people know that swimming's not, I've done it, yeah. I know the woman who teaches the class. She does a thing like swimming is not allowed, like you know, if you fall off your board, please get out of the water like as quickly as possible.
That's all I had.
Great. Roads and highways, infrastructure and utilities.
I'll let you say it.
UT Road is no longer an unpaved road. Thanks to-
Yeah, so this whole section probably needs a lot of work. I noticed a few things about things that were unpaved and would it be helpful, Jeremy, if I just sent you this section of the plan? Would you be able to just
Yeah.
like update it?
Yep.
And then you can get it worded exactly the way that you are comfortable with and is correct. Rather than me trying to take down all these details and whatnot.
I got a lot of scribbles on this.
Yes, I can imagine. I have a big note at the top to just have you review. So I'll shoot an email over to you with that section and then you can get everything worded correctly.
It's kind of hoping Birch was gonna be here because I know he's probably gonna razz me about Canada's Hill Road.
Mm-hmm. I was,
That's on the agenda for next year, so.
oh, is it? I chuckled to myself a little bit too when I read that section. Thinking about what Birch was gonna have to say. Okay, section 2.10.2 wastewater management. I just had a note. Really, we just need the county to review this. You may have some additional notes. You're a little more probably familiar and knowledgeable about the county sewer system than I am.
Unfortunately, I don't know a whole lot about it because it involves all of those private roads down there that really
Yep.
we have no involvement with, so.
Okay, yeah, so well, this will be something the county will be able to assist us with because we just don't really have the knowledge base to be able to update that section. I've got a note, section 2.10.3, the water supply. This whole section needs to be rewritten. I'm hoping that I can tap Mark Melmandier to help us with updating that section. He was the former town board member who really oversaw that water project. So I think that he would be qualified and most likely willing to help us update that section.
Proposal. Well, instead of public water supply, that was done.
Yeah. Yeah, this whole, there is public water now, so this whole section is a cross it out and start over. Yeah, so, okay, so that's the end of that section. That was painless, so, I think that I think that worked well, reading ahead of time and just reviewing our notes. Would you guys agree?
Oh, yeah.
I think it goes a lot faster than us like going through line by line and getting out in the weeds as we go through sections. So I'll keep you posted as far as the agenda goes, whether we are going to continue reviewing sections of the plan at our next meeting, or if we're gonna have that public engagement meeting. We won't do both. We'll do one or the other. So, so going forward, I think I'll assign a couple of sections for each meeting, and we'll work our way through the plan. A lot of this plan is appendices and stuff, the maps that are all gonna be updated, the old survey, so the plan is shorter than it seems at first glance at your binder, so. Any last comments, thoughts, questions? Okay, well, awesome. Thank you again, you guys, so much for your time and your participation and doing your homework. I wish I had gold stars for you all. And our next meeting will be October 10th either way. So we'll either have some homework for these sections, or we'll be doing the public meeting. And if we do move forward with the public engagement meeting, there will likely be some emails going out and just kind of giving you guys a heads up and potentially asking for feedback one way or another. We're gonna do another postcard mailing. Yep. So. And also with that, we'll have to choose the dates very soon so that we can get the postcard developed and printed and mailed in time. So, all right, we'll adjourn this meeting.